Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Welcome back.
Yes, guys. So we see this out of Forbes, and actually a bunch of places are just buzzing about this. Financial Times is saying that we have U.S. intelligence agencies warning of large-scale cyber attack that is still ongoing.
Right, and without saying too many words, it just feels like that this is another thing, another piece to the puzzle, something in the making for something bigger.
Big things are upon us. A major cyber attack that the U.S. agency overseeing cybersecurity warned Thursday poses a grave threat to the federal government and private sector, has breached the Energy Department and the National Nuclear Security Administration, according to Politico, stoking fears about what information may have been compromised. This is pretty big. Since news of the attack was made public last week, the scope and potential threat of infiltration, which is so far thought to have impacted thousands of businesses and nearly half a dozen federal agencies, has been attributed by U.S. officials to Russia and has continued to escalate. According to Politico's Thursday report, hackers managed to breach a National Nuclear Security Administration, the National Nuclear Security Administration, which maintains the U.S.'s nuclear weapons stockpile, as well as the Energy Department's Federal Regulatory Commission, national laboratories at Los Alamos in New Mexico, and Washington as well, the Office of Secure Transportation, and the Richland Field Office of the DOE. This is in addition to the other federal agencies, including the Pentagon, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, that were known to be potentially compromised for their downloading of corrupted software from SolarWinds, which was sourced as the access point for hackers. In an alert issued earlier on Thursday, U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, for the first time detailed the scale of the attack, warning that it has determined federal government, state, local, tribal, and territorial organizations, as well as critical infrastructure entities and private sector organizations, to be at grave risk from the infiltration. Furthermore, CISA said it's identified additional access points through which hackers may have been able to get into the U.S. computer systems, meaning the scope of the hack could be much broader than initially projected. CISA said the hackers, whose attack dates back to at least March, have shown sophistication and complex tradecraft in these intrusions, and predicts it will be highly complex and challenging for organizations to remove the threat actor from compromised environment. 18,000, that's the total number of organizations, including unclassified networks, run by most federal government entities that downloaded the corrupt SolarWinds software. The hack was detected by cybersecurity firm FireEye, who announced last week the U.S. government and its clients have been placed at risk. The scale of the attack, which has been widely attributed to the Russian Foreign Intelligence Agency, despite denial from Russian officials, is not yet known. But the Associated Press suggested that hackers could have gained access to some of the U.S.'s most deeply held secrets. President Trump instead focused on his continued challenges to the results of the election. So, this is just buzzing all over the place. It's very disconcerting, to say the least. As you see, this was just 20 minutes ago. Cyber attack on U.S. government poses grave risk. Most definitely. That's just a given. There's a lot more that goes on right now that meets the eye. And as we had said before, 4 years ago, what I got was Trojan horse, and that's what we're seeing. There's a lot more entities and people involved in this than just what's being said.
Yeah, this is like a really big deal. And what I'm gathering from this is they're going to have to do some kind of shutdown of communications, probably to stop this. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, and this is, again, going to be leading to that, thing that's been talked about, the 10 days of darkness and, this blackout period. You could see it coming. We've go back to August 6th when we got the message from the Galactics to brace yourself. as you see this headline, largest espionage attack in history. And this is all part of the bigger plan. It's all part of the bigger plan. You could look at it like we've talked about in so many ways. Sorry about that little Defender coming out there. Boy, we could use a Defender on a national scale.
Right.
Yeah, you could look at this so many different ways, but what we've talked about is the fact that the power is going to shift. Stop that there. The power is going to shift, and it's in the midst of shifting.
Okay.
It's shifting towards, obviously, China, as we've been saying. And the U.S., again, just, for instance, as far as the weaponry, we have 332 million people. We have like 410 million firearms in this country. And people, there's a decent amount of people that are awake to, the bigger picture here. And many will look at it on a biblical, reference point and view America as Babylon the Great, and, view this as perhaps a sacrifice. As we know, there's been so many ritualistic things that always go down, and we talked about how DC is set up, completely structured in a pattern that is, many people would call a cult.
Yes.
Way, but it's taking advantage of natural energies. It's all done to bring about desired outcomes, to sow the seeds to be harvested and reaped at some point.
Right, exactly. And you know what? We have been allowed for this time to learn certain secrets, and we can also take advantage of these energies on incoming. This conjunction is huge, and it's a huge manifestation conjunction. And I think if everybody that's listening and will listen in the future could just step outside for 3 minutes and manifest a peaceful, free outcome, then that's going to really matter.
And by the way, there's a report that's saying that China not only is hacking our government, they're looking at individuals as well. Individual Americans, and tapping into their messages, reading their messages, and perhaps they're getting ready for when they are thinking they're going to take control.
Right.
And we've talked about the food crisis and stuff, and of course they'd want to keep the grow zones as productive as possible. And Cindy has seen basically camps with Americans herded and rounded up. And here we see CNN reported the world almost ended in nuclear war, but it really didn't. Russia and the United States accidentally started a nuclear war in the week ending on December 13th, according to CNN's Barbara Starr, citing unnamed U.S. defense officials. A Russian military exercise allegedly triggered an unusual warning at U.S. Ramstein Air Base in Germany. We talked about that as well, but we didn't talk about this end of it. This resulted in several minutes of uncertainty and alarm, and all clear was sounded, according to anonymous sources. The initial assessment is that the missile warning may have been triggered when U.S. intelligence satellites detected a launch. Highly classified U.S. military satellites that track the infrared trail of ballistic missiles determined that a submerged Russian submarine had test-fired 4 ICBMs from its underwater location in the Sea of Okhotsk off eastern Russia on the 11th. And we talked about that too. And it wasn't just a submarine. They also did the same thing, testing hypersonic missiles from ships as well. And, there's been reports too that they've been testing weaponry that will knock satellites out.
Yeah, there's just so much going on. And really, honestly, out of all the stuff that we have covered and talked about, this today really kind of has me on edge.
Yeah, and, here Putin had his annual press briefing. He talked about hypersonic weapons, the arms race, a lot of other things as well. He said that the U.S. is pursuing hypersonic weapons. He said that they have them already. Russia has them already. plenty of them, and their technology is far more advanced. And then there's also been reports that China has them as well. And, again, these things move at like Mach 9, So they move at like 6,800, 6,900, close to 7,000 miles per hour. That is fast. It truly is indefensible. And then he goes on and talks about how Russia's military budget is 46 billion compared to the U.S.'s, which is, listed at like 722 billion. Actually, it's probably encroaching a trillion. And just basically saying how effective and efficient they have been, where the U.S.'s money is apparently getting wasted or being used for other things. So it was interesting to see that, and I've always saw the hypersonic thing as something that's given me the willies, so to speak, like a premonition, a feeling of premonition. So we've been following Monkey Works. He does a good job. He has a YouTube channel too. I follow a ton of people that follow all sorts of military plane movement. Here he said that the Canadians appear to be looking for something off the coast of Halifax, because they have planes up there, reconnaissance planes, searching. I wonder if they're searching for, a ship, a sub, something that was sighted maybe off the coast perhaps. You got to wonder.
Well, we just don't know, and all we have is the information that they're giving us. And since they've never really been honest, where are we to stand right now?
Yeah. And while we were talking about the Chinese fishing fleet, one of our family members said, "Did you ever see this article?" And no, I didn't see this article. And this is from April 26, 2019. Why are they arming their fishing fleet? And now, that was something I was suspicious of. But now here we got actual statements coming out saying they are arming their fishing fleet. And by the way, there's like over 400 ships off of South America. And it seems to be growing because there was like 250 off the coast of Ecuador months back. And now there's over 400. So the number seems to be increasing. And, I would watch this carefully. I'm sure that we do have people watching this carefully. But then again, Trojan horse. Right. So who do you trust? Who's actually on the inside that horse, helping to guide things.
Yeah, and this is the part when we tell you guys, how important it is to find your center, because there could be a lot of stuff going on outside of you that you don't have any control over, but you will have control over yourself.
So they are actually arming this fleet with weapons aboard the boat. And again, I was saying, how many people could have already been infiltrating in for years? We don't know. It's probably a very, very high number. Cindy has gotten from the guides that, there's many, many here. Some have been here for complete generations.
Yes, here for generations, just for being trained to, for this moment in time. And it really feels like we're almost at that pinnacle, that place where things can't build anymore. Something has to happen.
Yeah, so they're building up a maritime militia is how they word it. Interesting as we see this fleet off the coast of the Americas. And, before we get to the last article here, just wanted to give you an update when we did our meditation and Cindy got message from the Galactics. What the Pleiadian Laurel was saying was that there's going to be so much coming out right now that they're very, very worried and concerned. The Galactic Federation's worried and concerned about people's ability to handle what's going to come out. We've always wanted disclosure. We've always wanted to know the truth. But it takes me back to that movie, You Can't Handle the Truth. Well, some people may not be able to handle the truth when their whole paradigm is just completely broken down. Whether they have been believing in one political, party, whether they have been believing that, the president actually has power, or that we are alone in this universe. There are no aliens. There are no interdimensional beings. Even just from a religious standpoint, to have your feet pulled out from under you, the rug pulled out from under you, and your complete belief system being overturned can make for people to have massive breakdowns, to have this mental emotional crisis that can hit. And so they're very, very concerned because we are going to be having things getting revealed at an exponential rate. And, there are many of us that are very awake to the whole thing, and it's not going to faze us, except for, perhaps to say, wow, I can't believe this day finally came, and it has to come. It ultimately is a good thing when you look all the way down the line, because the whole system has to change. The illusion has to go. We have to wake up to the reality that we're not alone. Also that, the parties are basically tied to strings, and the puppet masters from above, maybe really from above in many ways.
Right. There's a whole lot that's coming forward, and it's going to be placed in our lap that we're going to have to be able to process. And look at the timing of this. It's like they do want to lock us in a lower vibration, right before this huge conjunction. But let's just keep that in mind. Let's not forget that, and let's not let it happen.
Yeah, we went and did some shopping, and I had a few other close friends that are out there doing shopping right now. Extra shopping, just in case, because we don't know. I mean, I've had one song in my head all day long, and many of you might know it. Remember the Pat Travers band? You know the song Boom Boom, Out Go the Lights? That song's been in my head all day. And I don't know who put it there, but it's there. I do feel that we're going to have some disruptions. They could come anytime. And we could have natural or perhaps semi-natural eruptions from the sun that could do things as well. I would definitely be prepared right now as much as you can. As we've said many times, the government told us 6 months without the grid, on your own, be able to handle that. Perhaps they should add in, be able to handle, the recognition that there's non-human entities very, very involved in human affairs.
Right. We just have so much going on, and now's the time to, pull yourself together, and no matter what you see, no matter what goes on, just hold your stuff together. Super important right now.
Whenever we feel like we're not sure of what way to go or anything along those lines, and whenever we feel disjointed, out of things energetically, we do mantras and meditate, and that will reset us, and we might do it for an hour, maybe more, nonstop, and you might have to do it 2-3 times during the day, but it will always give us answers. It always does. I mean, every single time we get answers.
Always. That's a beautiful practice to get into. And even just, if you could just stare at a candle and let your brain kind of drain, let all the information drain out and focus on that candle flame, that can really do a lot for you.
75% of Americans surveyed said that 2020 has pushed the country into an existential crisis. And, that's an undeniable fact. We could see it out there. We could see it. We could feel it. There's, again, these outside influences, outside influences influencing our country, and outside influences influencing our entire globe.
Yeah, we have to remember that. I think it's just important to know the influences that are around you, understand what's going on around you, so that you're not taken, off guard.
So let's all of us, send out our intentions, our prayers for the unshackling of the chains that have shackled the consciousness of the planet for so long, thousands of years. We don't even know. It might be way more than what we could even imagine. And may true liberty and the ability to actually pursue our own individual and collective pursuit of happiness be real and realized.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And, it's kind of like cleaning out a really messy room in your house. You have to pull everything out, and things might look a little bit worse or a lot worse before things can go back together and things look better.
Guys, thank you so much for your support on here and also on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Make sure you're subscribed and have the bell clicked to both channels. Stay prepared. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.